So this is the Head Formula. Now the Formula is a high performance downhill resort style boot, and it really is packed in with a lot of features. So let's delve in a little bit deeper and give this a thorough review. So the Formula has been built from the Raptor series. So it is essentially a race boot that's been toned back and just made a little bit more accessible and comfortable for all mountain skiing. Now it is available in a variety of different flex ratings. For the men's there is a 130, a 120, a 110 and a 100 flex option. And for the women's there is a 105, 95 and 85 flex available. There's also two lasts in this boot. So you do have the standard 100mm last in the regular model, but there is also the RS series, which is the lower volume 98mm last. And this model here that we're doing the review on is the 110 flex version. Now, there is a whole lot that we can talk about on this boot. So the first thing that we should start with is the shape. Now, being based from this Raptor last, it is a boot that is actually quite generous in length for its size. So it is something that's also promoted by Head with the extended toe box. And what's of note with this toe box, it does have quite a bit of freedom up front. There is a nice amount of height to it, but there's also a little bit of curvature. It's something I noticed when I step into this boot right away. On the lower half of the toe box, I can sort of really feel that impact on the lower side. But it is a really good versatile shape to start out with. It's quite straight down the medial side and has a good broadness along the outside of the shell too. So really good for fitting a lot of feet. And it also is a form fit plastic, so completely heat moldable from the plastic. It comes standard with grip walk soles on the bottom. There is 4 really nice solid low profile buckles. One thing I really like about the buckles that Head put on this boot is the little bit of kick on the handle. So you get great leverage and it does lock in nice and securely. Now on this 110 model, you can add an extra bolt in the back to beef it up to 120 flex. And also you do have dual cuff alignment bolts on either side. So a lot of versatility. It is very boot fitter friendly as far as all of the customizable options. On the top here of this boot, you can see there's quite a broad power strap. And the power strap's actually really lightweight. It's almost this really lightweight mesh webbing. So not that weight saving's really concerned for your power strap, but it doesn't make it too bulky. It keeps it also nice and close fitting. So it is a feature I like on the power strap itself. Now it is fixed in place with rivets, so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking to change that one out. Now the main thing that we should probably talk about on this boot is dive in on the inside and really have a look at this liner, because it's one of the biggest features of the Formula. So the liner on the inside of this boot is the Formula LF. Now the LF stands for liquid fit. Now the liquid fit system, you can see on the side here, there is these little pouches. That is attached to a bladder on either side around the back of this liner. And what we can do with this is actually inject some paraffin material into these bladders to fill in any voids that you may have around the ankles and heel. So it really fills in at the Achilles, it locks you better into place, and it also just allows you to get that extra snugness you're looking for. Now it's not something that sets like a foam injection liner. With this paraffin material, you can actually remove some back if you end up filling too much in, but it stays in almost that gel form. So it is manipulatable, if that's a word. So that is a really good feature, and I do like this liquid fit system. Now, one thing of note, if you are going to heat mold the liners, be very careful of how hot you get them, especially if you're putting this liner in an oven, because you can actually seal up these bladders, which will then prevent you from doing the liquid fit. So a little bit of word of warning there. Also, there is a full neoprene toe box on the front of this liner. It is insulated with Primaloft, so good materials on the inside. There is a handle on the back and the front of the liner for leverage getting into the boot, and a nice leather at the back to keep it a little bit more slick as you slide in with your socks. There is a nice elastic over the top of the liner, and also a removable spoiler that attaches by Velcro on the back. So a really nice customizable liner that's heat moldable as well as the liquid fit, so a lot of options for really tailoring how that feels. Okay, and then moving on to the boot board. Now you might be able to see it down in there. It's actually fixed into place with a screw, so bear with me as I get it out for you. So really not too much to talk about on the boot board. It is quite simple in its shape and its wedge and its height. It does have quite a nice grip around the external, but through the middle it's actually slick. So the benefit of this is as you're sliding your liner back into the boot, if you're removing it in and out, it's much easier to get that liner down into position. But when you are there, it actually is going to hold nicely with the grip from the base of the liner onto the boot board itself, help with that power transmission and keep everything in place. So yeah, it's quite a nice material. It is fairly firm. It's more on the plastic side, further away from, say, the foam or rubber side of boot boards. So again, more about that carving performance rather than shock absorption. Okay, next moving on to the stance of this boot. Now in the base, we have a ramp angle of 4 degrees. And then it's interesting when we look at the forward lean of this boot, you can see on the side of the cuff, they print 2 different angles of 9 and 16 degrees. Now, I'm not sure how they actually got their 9 degrees. That's actually a fairly upright stance. When I was measuring it in, it was coming in a bit closer for me towards like the 11 degrees. But they are probably measuring it in a different way to me, so we'll have to take their word for 9. And the only way that you get to the 16, it's not like other boots where you have the ability to alter your forward lean. It's simply by adding the spoiler to get you to 16 degrees. So with this spoiler, that's how it comes out standard out of the box. So you should really consider this 4 degrees of ramp angle, 16 degrees of forward lean, unless you want to take that spoiler away to get your stance a little bit more upright. Okay, and then let's just have a closer look at these cuff alignment bolts. Included in the box, you do get an extra flex tuning bolt. And to take these off, it's all with the included Allen key. And you can quickly remove this whole cuff off the boot, just like a race boot. So that is something I absolutely love, especially if you need to get any grinding work done. It really lets you get into the lower shell really easily. Now, with these cuff alignment bolts, you can actually turn them in 2 directions. So you've got that ability to alter your angles, and the 2 settings that you have is either these nubs being in the vertical position or in the horizontal. So you do get a fair amount of angulation with that. Not that you're likely to go too far with them, but it is a really good adjustment capability. But then you can see taking that completely off, being able to get into this boot is an absolute boot fitter's dream. Okay, so if I was to pick out any negatives on this boot, there's only a couple of things I can really mention. It is a little bit firm with the plastic over the top of the tongue, so I found that not so easy to work with. And also when you're initially heat molding this liner, I think it's probably this outer material they're using. It is quite restrictive, so it doesn't heat mold very easily from a liner perspective. It probably is a pro and a con to this liner as far as it's made really well and it will hold its shape and be very durable long term. But it's something you probably need to focus on initially. And what I do recommend is, I talked about it earlier with these bladders, just if you're doing a heat mold on this liner, avoid putting it in an oven. You're much better just heating this liner internally in order to get a better shape out of it. Other than that, there's really not too much I can criticize. I wish it was a little bit lower volume in the cuff because you can fit really well through the lower shell, but people with skinny legs, maybe not the best wrapping at the cuff, but that can be fixed in other ways. But that's really it. Overall, what do I think of the Formula boot? I actually really love it. Now, it's a boot that I've had a lot of success with as far as fitting, and everyone who I've put into this boot this year has come back raving about how it skis. So, high performance, if you want the feeling of a Raptor, but not the pain that you have to go through or the coldness that you get with the race boot, this is one that gives you a lot of response. It's a high performance boot and it's got all of those features we've talked about. So it does get the Stoke meter pretty high for me. I'm going to rate this one at an 8.5. So thanks guys, I'll catch you in the next one.